The battlefield was a wasteland of fire and wreckage. The landscape of we reduced to craters and smoldering ruins. General of the Dominion stood on the command bridge of his warship. His four glowing eyes narrowed as he observed the battle unfolding below. The invasion of we had been calculated to the last detail. The Dominion's forces outnumbered the human defendants 20 to 1. Their plasma weaponry far superior to the firearms of the Earthlings. Victory was assured, or so he had believed. Yet now, something unthinkable was happening. Through the reinforced observation panels, he watched as the human soldiers, outnumbered, and supposedly outmatched, refused to fall. They moved like wraiths through the battlefield, using train, wreckage, and even fallen enemies as cover. Explosions rocked their ranks, yet they adapted, their formations shifting instinctively, seamlessly. Impossible, muttered, his mandibles clicking in disbelief. He turned to his tactician, Commandant, who was frantically analyzing the latest combat report. What is happening down there? Why haven't they surrendered? Voss trembled. General, the humans are adapting faster than we can predict. Our beta algorithms are failing to keep up with their tactics. Gaze snapped back to the battlefield. He saw a squad of Terran soldiers break through the line, taking down warriors twice their size with precise shots to weak point. A human warrior wielding only a combat knife leaped onto a towering, driving the blade into its exposed neck, bringing it crashing down in a convulsion of death. How? Growled. They lack superior strength. Their technology is primitive. What gives them this resilience? Hesitated before answering. General, it is illogical, but it appears to be their will. They do not surrender. They do not break. The warlord clenched his fists. Surrender was not in his nature. But for the first time in his centuries of conquest, he felt a pang of something unfamiliar, doubt. On the battlefield below, the human soldiers pressed forward, their battle cries echoing through the ruins. They fought not for glory, not for dominance, but for each other. And realized, with a chilling certainty, that this was what made them truly unstoppable.
General Zalvorek clenched his mandibles as his warship's holodisplay flickered with casualty reports. It was unprecedented, impossible. The mighty Vraxian Dominion, conquerors of 1,000 worlds, was being driven back by an inferior species. His warriors were stronger. Their armor was nearly impervious to standard kinetic rounds. Their fleets dwarfed humanity's meager starships. And yet, the humans would not die. Zalvorek turned to his communications officer. Order all ground forces to fall back and regroup at the forward command post. We will crush them with orbital bombardment. The officer hesitated. General, we have lost communication with the command post. Zalvorek's four eyes widened. Explain. Vector, his tactician, paled as he brought up a live battlefield feed. They took it, General. The display showed what remained of the Vraxian forward command. Its massive defensive walls, built to withstand entire armadas, were riddled with explosions and debris. Human soldiers moved through the ruins, planting flags of their Terran Federation. Their armor was battered, their weapons running low on ammunition, yet they pressed forward like predators smelling blood in the water. Even now, small squads of Vraxian warriors tried to retake the command post, but the humans cut them down with ruthless efficiency. Zalvorek gritted his teeth. How had they pushed through? How had they learned Vraxian tactics so quickly? Then he saw them. A group of humans moved in coordinated precision, their weapons slung over their backs as they scavenged Vraxian plasma rifles. In mere hours, they had adapted, reverse engineering alien technology in the middle of a war zone. Another squad had taken over a Vraxian comms relay, jamming enemy signals and using the Dominion's own infrastructure against them. And at the front of it all, a lone human soldier, his armor caked in blood and dirt, barked orders with an intensity that sent a chill through Zalvorek's carapace. His species thrived on war, but these humans, they became war. Vector's voice shook. General, our warriors are beginning to retreat. Zalvorek inhaled sharply. Vraxians do not retreat. Yet the battlefield told a different story. His best troops, the mightiest warriors of the Dominion, were faltering. The humans weren't just fighting, they were winning. A deep silence fell over the command bridge. Zalvorek's claws tapped against the metal console, his mind racing. This was no mere battle. This was the beginning of something far worse. The humans weren't just surviving. They were evolving. And the Vraxian Dominion had just made the greatest mistake in its history. They had underestimated humanity. Zalvorek had fought in 1,000 campaigns, but never had he witnessed a nightmare unfold before his very eyes. The humans, battered and bloodied, should have broken by now. Any logical species would have surrendered. But the humans weren't logical, they were something else entirely. Across the battlefield, Dominion forces were withdrawing in disarray. Vraxians were warriors, bred for combat, yet for the first time, they faltered, not from wounds, not from fear of death, but from something far worse, doubt. Zalvorek turned to his bridge officers. Signal all commanders, begin a tactical withdrawal, we must regroup. Vector hesitated. General, that will cede the planet to them. Zalvorek's mandibles twitched. I am aware. The order was given. Across the battlefield, Vraxian dropships lifted off, their once dominant war machines left abandoned. Entire battalions, once poised to conquer, now fled like prey before an unstoppable predator. Yet even as they retreated, the humans did not let up. A deafening roar filled the calm channels. It was not static, it was not interference. It was the humans. Cheering. Zalvorek clenched his fists as he saw them, standing atop the wreckage of his finest war machines, their fists raised in triumph. They had won against impossible odds, and now, they reveled in their victory. And then he saw him again. The same human warrior, now stripped of his helmet, revealing his scarred face and eyes that burned like fire. He stood among his soldiers, lifting a captured Vraxian banner, then snapped it in half. The bridge of the warship fell silent. The meaning was clear. This was no mere battle. This was a message. We do not fear you. Aftermath. In the cold corridors of the Dominion's War Council, the Supreme Warlords watched the footage in silence. Never before had a species stood against them like this. Never before had they been forced to retreat. One of the warlords turned to Zalvorek. What are they? Zalvorek exhaled slowly. He had spent his entire life conquering weaker species, but now he knew the truth. The humans were not weak, they were not conquerable. They were something the Dominion had never encountered before. His four eyes met the warlord's gaze as he spoke the words that would shape the future of their empire. They are inevitable. Zalvorek had fought many wars, he had conquered countless worlds, he had broken entire civilizations beneath the iron will of the Vraxian Dominion. But now, for the first time, he found himself staring into the abyss of something far greater than war. An enemy that would never stop fighting. The supreme warlords of the Dominion convened in the Grand War Council, a colossal chamber floating above the capital world of Vraxis Prime. Hollow projections flickered across the room, displaying the humiliating retreat from Delthar V. It was undeniable, the humans had won. The eldest of the warlords, High Dominator Kareth, leaned forward, his voice a low growl. Explain this failure, General. Zalvorek straightened, his mandibles clicking in frustration. The humans do not fight as other species do. They do not rely on strength alone. They adapt, they endure, they are unpredictable. Karetha's eyes burned with fury. Every species has a breaking point, General. Every army can be crushed. Zalvorek took a breath before replying. I once believed that as well. He gestured to the footage looping above them the moment the human warrior had snapped the Dominion's banner in half. Yet these creatures, they do not surrender, even in defeat. They learn, even in death. They inspire. Their technology is inferior, but their will is unbreakable. Another warlord, Vector, sneered, then we obliterate them before they can become a threat. Zalvorek shook his head. It is too late, they are already a threat. Kareth sat back, his talons tapping against the stone table. Then we change tactics. A new holoimage appeared, a map of Terra, the human homeworld, a direct invasion, an extermination, a war that would end humanity before they could spread any further. Zalvorek's stomach tightened. They were making the same mistake. Earth United Terran Command, on the other side of the galaxy, deep within a fortified bunker on Earth, Supreme Commander Elias Grayson leaned over a war table, staring at the latest intelligence reports. The Battle of Delthar V had been a victory, but it had only been the beginning. His officers stood in tense silence as he spoke. They're coming. No one needed to ask who. The Vraxians had underestimated humanity once. They wouldn't make that mistake again. But neither would Earth. Grayson turned to his chief strategist, a hardened veteran named Colonel Vasquez. How long? Vasquez exhaled. If our estimates are right, we have less than 6 months before they launch a full-scale invasion. Grayson nodded. Then we use the time wisely. A massive display flickered to life, showing military projections, troop movements, and most importantly, humanity's counterattack. We didn't start this war, Grayson said, his voice cold as steel, but we'll finish it. Vasquez grinned, and this time, we take the fight to them.